I thought I'd put together a little video of some maintenance I have to do on these two karts. I just got back from Washington State. I took these karts up there and competed in the V6 in the Targa Maria. Guys, it was a lot of fun, but the course was rough, and we ran these things hard, me and Joey. So I have to do some maintenance because, you know, there's some broken stuff on an old number 27, which I'll get around to showing you. The Monocar fared pretty good, but we bent the front axle, the spindle part of the axle, the 3/4 part. So got back, and they were both dirty from running around in dusty conditions. So I gave them a good bath, and you know, we developed a crack in the header. So this was a field repair that the guys did up there. They've been used to this stuff, so they had, I think it's a brass tube in there and these clamps to kind of hold the crack. It's just barely getting started. Chain loosened up considerably, stretched out, but that's still okay. But see, that's too much for me, so I'm gonna adjust the engine. Nothing broke, no welds, and nothing came loose that I could find. It just loosened up from being stretched. So I've got the spindles off on each side, so I can check them out. Here's the front rims. So here's that spindle's fine, but on the left front, you can see it. See, it's not plumb. That thing is definitely bent. That's a 3/4 solid steel axle. So I was surprised that I bent it, but jeez, we really ran this thing hard. So there isn't much to do on this. I got to clean the air cleaner and adjust the chain, and I'll order a new spindle. And then the rear wheel cover came off. I kind of hurried through putting the Velcro on, and it was flopping around on the axle, so I've got to repair this. Looks like hell. But, you know, this is minor stuff. You know, the old number 27, you know, that was the first car they built, and the chassis, you know, I welded it. And I wasn't that good of a welder. Still aren't, but I'm better now. So the frame cracked in several spots, and I'll show you that once I finish the Monocar here. I'll take the rear cover off, and I'll show you the repairs I got to make there. So I guess it's all part of cyclekarting. Is, you know, if you want to race around with the guys and run them hard, you got to fix them. So all right, I'll add more to this video as I do the maintenance. All right. Okay, so I'll show you the things that broke while I was racing up at G3V in Targa Maria. It's interesting, there's a GoPro video where I'm driving uphill in this thing, one of the runs, and at the top of the hill after I pass the finish line, if you listen closely, you can hear a distinct dink where something broke. So that's funny, you can hear it on the video where it broke. But this is what started the problem right here. This brace, that weld broke. And so that allowed the motor to move a little bit, and it started putting stress. The chain got loose, and that part of the frame cracked. And then there's ever so slightly a crack there. And then right here, it's starting to go. I had put, these are mending plates here, and I put mending plates right here. So that helped keep it all together, because I was able to weld that better. But I think I ground my welds down too much. You know, well, that's the way it goes sometimes. There's another crack. So this whole motor, you can see it, it moves. This moves up and down. So that's what you could hear break. And then another problem was the little C-clip here, snap ring, came out, and this whole shaft moved over. It was about to here. So that what ultimately happened is the chain came off. The guys up there at G2V, they have all kinds of things in their bag of tricks, and they just whipped out another one of these C-clips and a pair of pliers, and and they donated that to me. But then which was really great of them, but then we figured out there was just way too much work to do here to fix it for the next day. So I'm going to take the motor off, and I don't think I'll have to take the axle off, but anyway, I have to grind the paint, prep it, and then weld it, maybe put some brackets in there. So I'll show you all that once I get going on it. I took the engine off, and then I moved the kart out here in the shop where I can do some welding. Got it up on some sawhorses, and now I can show you a lot clearer what happened. So there's where it broke at first, and then you know, it broke right here. Everywhere else it's just some minor little problems. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this whole platform here. I'm just going to redesign it. So I'm going to grind all this off of there, take out that brace. I think I'll add another 1x3 across here. Anyway, you know, this is my first attempt at mounting a motor back when I built this, so now I've learned a little bit more, and I'm going to do it different. So it'll be pretty much bulletproof, or battleship quality. So anyway, I decided I'm going to take out the axle, take the wheels off, take the sprocket, get all that out of there so I can really get into where I need to get into, so I can do a decent job. Alright. I'm making progress getting this thing torn down. Got the axle out. So here's the anatomy of a rear axle. So there's the bearing. That's a 2-hole bearing versus a 3-hole. And then the 1-inch axle, 36 inches long. Locking collar, 6-inch disc. Then a locking collar on the other side of the disc. Then a locking collar on the one side of the sprocket. And you see the sprocket has a sprocket hub. That's an item you have to buy separate from the sprocket. There's the 2 keyways, one for the keys, fit in the keyway of the axle here. So there's one for the brake disc and one for the sprocket. So anyway, you put locking collars on either side of that. There's the other bearing. And then strategically slipped in at just the right moment is the disc brake caliper, which slides into this bracket at just the right moment as you're kind of putting it all together. And then there's the brake rod coming in. So, and then this is pretty loose. I'm going to grind on it a little bit right here and here, and that'll just break off because it wasn't welded that good to begin with. Alright, so a little bit more work here and I'll have it cleaned up, and I'll start grinding paint and get her welded and put it back together. It'll be better than before, and like I say, I'm going to rebuild this platform for the engine. It won't look like this at all when I'm done, so looking forward to doing something better. Making a little progress here. So I've ground down all the spots that had issues, clean those up. And then I'm going to put some new steel right in here, so I've ground it so I can get a good weld, top and bottom. I'm going to fill that in. And then this kind of got all tore up from getting the old weld out of there, but I can fix that. I've got some steel here that I had out in the rack that I'm cleaning up, coming up with something. And then I measured everything real careful. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some steel in here, something along these lines. That way I can utilize this wood block and my existing plate And I'm trying not to, I want this to be exactly in the same spot location. This won't be here, but this plate, I'll make a new plate here. This would be this plate. I'll just make a whole new plate. So I don't want the height or the side to side or front to back dimension to change. So that's kind of the challenge here. All right, but it's going in this direction. The next order of business is to repair this breakout here. So I have some 16 gauge steel here, and I cut a piece, and then I have a little box brake that I made an angle. So this fits on there like that. So I'll cut out the part here and see if I can get it to fit in there decent and weld it in. You know, the new work I'm doing would really cover all this up, but I want the practice of trying to fit in a piece of metal. So let's see if it works. Okay, I've got this piece of bent metal fitting in here pretty good. I cut out the messed up metal, and then I've been working it, hand shaping it and filing it so it's nice and smooth. So if I can just keep from messing it all up when I weld it, I'll just tack it around and then weld it in and grind it smooth, and that should be an okay repair. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, well, I got it welded in. I tacked it around and then I filled it in. You know, I haven't been welding that long, but, you know, I got plenty of heat to it, and, you know, I think it'll clean up all right. You know, you don't have to be excellent at every skill when you're building a cycle car. You just got to be willing to give it a try. So, more practice, and I just keep welding every chance I get, and they'll get better. I mean, these welds are better than what I used to do, and, you know, they're still crappy, but, you know, at least I didn't burn through. I'm welding 16 gauge steel. So I got the heat pretty close, and I just gotta, you know, my bead isn't the greatest, but, you know, I think the weld will hold. So I'll grind it up, and then it'll be ready for the new steel I want to put on. And by the time I'm all done and get this thing painted, it'll look like $1 million. All right, I finished the repair. Turned out pretty good. Looks all right. So first I ground it down with the hard disc. Then I used some, I think it's 100 grit or 80 grit on a disc. And then I hit it with a DA that's had some 100 grit. So that smoothed it out pretty good. So now I can proceed with adding steel here and start to build up this platform. All right, well, that turned out just fine. Here's my plan of attack. This is what I came up with. So I'm going to add 2 pieces of steel here and these angle irons. So here's the existing rear frame, the new steel, the existing, that'll be a new 1/8 inch plate. Then that's an existing block of wood and the existing motor plate. So going in that direction, here's what I've come up with. So I'm adding these 2 pieces of 1x3 steel here. I'll weld that all up, and then adding these angle irons, which the bolt will go through. There'll be a new piece of 1/8 inch steel right here, and then this wood block. And then this motor plate here. So that measures out to be in exactly the same place, and once I put the 1/8 inch under here, that'll be the same height. And that's just a much sturdier platform. It'll also help strengthen the frame here. So might be a little overkill, but I've learned that these motor mounts you want to build stout. So next order of business is to tack this all together and get it in place and weld it up. Well, I finished the welding in essence. I have to clean everything up, but here's the mock-up. So now it's got all the components in it. Here's the 1/8 inch right here. and that was welded on to the bracket here and to these 1x3s. Here's the oak block. I've had this piece of oak wood I've had for 20 years. It's really dense. So I cut a piece out of that board and made this, and it's held it pretty good. Here's my motor plate. You can see the bolts coming through, and they're flush. So I tacked this and welded it all up, and I just have to kind of clean it up. Then I've got to mask it and prep it for some paint. I got some guys coming over this weekend to play around with Cyclekarts, so I want to get this thing put back together. So it's getting there. Got all the welds cleaned up now. I didn't over grind them, but they're going to be all right. Most all this is under the rear cover. So there's a couple little spots that I want to do just a hair more welding, but and I might put some gussets in here because I really couldn't get back in here. So maybe maybe on both of these I'll put a couple gussets in there. All right, so I'm almost to the point where I can prep it and paint it. Okay, I've got everything masked off. I've done a little bit of prepping the welds with this sandpaper disc. And then I'm going to, I got everything masked. I'm going to sand this whole exposed area with 180, and then I'm going to primer over it. Just knock it all down. And then kind of feather these areas in as best I can. Shoot some primer on it, sand it to about 320, 400, and then I'll shoot some paint and some top coat, or clear coat, and then it should look like it wasn't repaired to any great degree. I'd like it to be reasonably decent, so I'll keep you informed here. We're getting there. Okay, I got the primer on, so let that dry down, do some sanding and some painting, and assembly should go pretty quick, so I'm anxious to get this thing done. Not too bad, I think. I decided not to paint the sides of the frame because they weren't damaged and the finish is good, and I think it'll be nice to have the transition between the old and new paint right here at this joint, so we'll see how that works out. Okay, I'm going to get this done. You sure need a bunch of stuff when you're painting, you know, it's amazing. But got the repairs done, got the paint, got the clear coat on, took off the masking, a little bit of touch up here and there, no big deal. So it's nice and dry, and I'm ready to start putting things back together. So I get everybody coming over tomorrow so we can run Cyclekarts around, so I got to get cranking on this tonight. But it's almost done. I'd say things are looking up. I've got mostly put back together. Got the axle and the tires and wheels. Got all that put back together. The frame looks nice and clean. Put the battery box in. We took that out up at Vashon. Pulled it out of there thinking we were going to make a repair, so I got it back in. So I got to put the seat in, and I have to hook up the throttle cable. But almost done. Then it's back in service for fun in the sun. We'll be running it around tomorrow. All right. Okay, it's all ready to go. Fire her up. Not bad. All right. Having fun tomorrow. All right, so Brian stopped by and we're test driving the old 27 since I've done the repair. Brian brought his Cyclekart over. All right, here we go with the new motor mount, new rear frame all welded up. So far so good, sounds good, looks good. We're going to put the rear cover on it because Dion's coming over with his cycle cart. But we wanted to run it around once to make sure everything seemed fine. Yeah, it's looking good. Alright, well, we put the cart through its paces and everything seems pretty good, except there was this clicking noise going on. And that's because right here, the chain was hitting this. So that's just a simple fix. And now that I can see it, I got to move the sprocket over just a little bit. That'll clean that up. I had this thing up on sawhorses. It was hard to visually look down on it, make sure everything was correct. So, but that's an easy fix. Just a little adjustment, sliding the sprocket. I lowered the seat down a couple inches, so it's not quite so top heavy now. Brian's Cyclecart sure looks good on that trailer. Alright. I think we got a winner. Old 27's back in service. If they break, just fix them and get back to racing them. So we decided to put the old spindle back on. This is the one that's bent. You can kind of see there, bent. It's Saturday and we're cycle karting, so we put the old one back on. Got to put the wheels on. I have a new spindle coming. So we're just going to put it together so we can run it around today. It has like maybe 8 degrees of positive caster now with that bent like it is, but it'll be alright for today.
Here comes Jocelyn and Michael.
Alright, it's Saturday afternoon and Dion and Michael, they came over to visit. Dion just brought a cycle cart over. We've been messing with it, getting ready to run around the yard. Here's old number 27. For some reason, the Monocar, I can't get it to idle. I gotta take the carb apart or something. I bet there's some dirt in there. I gotta check it out. There's Brian's cycle cart. There's Brian. So it's a nice day for cycle cart. Here comes Michael and his son.
Yeah. And if I build another cycle cart, it'll be a more user-friendly, less racy.
So I'm working on the Monocar now, and for some reason it won't idle. And I suspect it's a dirty carburetor, because we ran in some dusty conditions. So I pulled the carb off. Got it over here. And I had the bowl off, and there was some little bit of dirt in the bottom, the kind that'd plug up a jet. And then the other thing is the spark plug kind of carboned up there. That could be a reason it's not idling too. So I figured I'd just service it. I haven't cleaned the air filter yet either, so I got to do that. Alright, I hate it when things don't work. So I'll get it cleaned up and it should be fine. So you can see Dion out there and Brian and Michael. They're working on Dion's cart. I guess when he bought his torque converter, the belt they gave him was not the right belt and is way sloppy. So he wrote down the numbers on the belts on my unit. And they had a little accident. The steering wheel came off. This was the other day, driving around their house, and the cart got away from him and hit a couple parked cars. Nobody was hurt and not too much damage, but the cycle cart, the front axle got bent, the spindle part, and the rear axle is bent. We just noticed it a little bit ago because there was this clicking noise, but nothing that can't be fixed. So, well, we didn't get to run Dion's cart around the yard, but we got to stand around and talk cycle carts for a while, and they learned a couple things about which belt. It's funny, come to find out he bought the clone torque converter, and they gave him the wrong belt. Interesting, isn't it? There's Isaac. There's Michael. They're going to run around.
He's like me. He won't know his limits, so I'm not going to race him.
Yeah, don't push them.
Little father-son cycle karting. All right, you're doing good.
How did you fix that for?
He just scoots up so he can reach. Yeah. Yeah, he's doing all right. And there's his dad, Michael. He's inside, I think. All right. There's Dion's car. All right. You might be able to see it, but that's got a bent axle. Well, I cleaned out the carburetor, cleaned the air filter, and put a new spark plug in, and I think everything is just fine. So let's see. Alright, well that one's fixed, so I think that finishes up all my maintenance. Alright, on to other things, like building the BMW.